I got one this morning from my guy Sean Hardy from Knicks Film School, and Sean said this to me. He texted me. He said, "There's an old saying: who can take you here may not take you there." Are we at that point with Tom Thibodeau? I don't want to say yes yet. I understand why fans are feeling this way now. I also want to make something clear. There's and I'm not, Sean isn't saying this, but Sean was texting to me and said to me that he's kind of like at this point of considering this now, which is why he asked the question. People will look at the last couple of nights and they'll say, and I had some people tweet this at me yesterday, Dex is coaching. The problem is coaching. Is it? Is it though? Like, I'm talking specifically about what happened the last 2 nights. Do you think, and Bryan alluded to this before, we put respect on Tom Thibodeau's name. We are not saying we know better than him. We're not saying anything like that at all. But some of y'all, do you think that Tom Thibodeau on the last 2 nights forgot how to coach? Because there's this thing we do in sports. We'll be like, players say this too. We didn't come out with the requisite energy. We weren't ready to play. We'll come out and say this, and I'll be like, well, the coach didn't have them prepared. He didn't have them ready to play. Do you think Tom Thibodeau took the day off? Do you think he stopped doing what he was doing in terms of preparation for the last couple of games? I don't think so. The guy's a known workaholic. He doesn't leave the office at the Knicks facility in Westchester, right? He's known for this. I don't think he changed in the last couple of days and just was like, I don't know how to coach. I don't have this team prepared. Nah. This is on the players, man. You got to go out there and give a damn. You got to go out there and have effort, right? I just want to be clear about that. Now, to Sean's question, that's not the same thing. If your question is what Sean is asking, has Tom Thibodeau taken his team to this point? But they're trying to get here, right? And if you listen to this on audio, you didn't see I had my hands at a certain level, then raise it higher. Is he a guy that can take him to the promised land? I'm going to say maybe not. It's not like we haven't seen this before in sports. We've seen this plenty of times.
Mark Jackson
with Steve Kerr. How about this year? Look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. JB Bickerstaff, right? And Kenny Atkinson.
That hurt.
Okay. Some people might want to sit here and say Ime Udoka. I think Ime Udoka would have won the championship if he was coaching last year.
We saw this with the Heat with Stan Van Gundy and Pat Riley taking over.
Sometimes you do need to change. Sometimes you have to recognize where you're at that point culturally or organizationally. Sometimes that needs to happen. Hell, some of us have probably seen it in our own jobs we've worked at, for better or worse. Sometimes they've changed your boss. Sometimes things have gotten better. I've also seen times they've changed it, and it's got a lot worse.
That happens more often.
Probably, yes, it does happen more often. I've absolutely seen this. But
not here to be clear.
No, not saying that at all. I'm talking about previous jobs.
Yeah.
Very clear. Talking about previous jobs. Yeah, so I think, to answer Sean's question, and Bryan, I want to hear what you have to say. I think a lot of this is, like I said, it's going to depend on how this looks in the playoffs. You and I do not think the Knicks are beating the Celtics or the Cavs right now.
No.
In the way they're currently constructed, in the way they've been looking, we do not think that. But if they lose to the Celtics in 7 and it looks like they're fighting, I think no reasonable person is going to be like, oh, man, Tom Thibodeau's going to go. If they get mollywopped, all bets are off that. Now, that also does not make Tom Thibodeau a bad coach, because I don't think he's a bad coach. And none of these coaches out there are perfect. We sometimes like to romanticize that coaches in these other places are perfect. Man, if you look at some of these other teams' Twitter, they'll be going in on their coaches too. There is somebody on the Cavs Twitter right now going in on Kenny Atkinson, and they have the best record in the league.
Because they lost to Orlando the other night.
Yeah. There's always going to be some of those people, right? And but I think the notion of, has he probably got them to the place where, but he can't take them to the promised land? Probably. Or he might not be the best coach for this iteration of the New York Knicks.
That's probably it.
Right? And that can be the thing. This iteration of the Knicks that changed 3/5 of their starting lineup before the season maybe he's not the best coach to get the most out of this iteration. Maybe there's a better coach that can get more out of Mikal Bridges. I don't know. Maybe.
Last year was more of a Thibs team. This
Right.
year doesn't feel like as much of a Thibs team.
And what you're saying there, Bryan, is a very interesting point, because sometimes the personnel that you change might not fit the coach. Sometimes you don't need to change the personnel that much, a la Golden State, a la Cleveland, but you change the coach. And I don't think the Knicks need big sweeping roster changes other than developing the bench, which we'll get into in a second, but it could be bringing in a new voice.
So let's play that.
And I also want to be clear. I'm not saying that the players have tuned out Tibbs' voice, because I do not think that is the case at all whatsoever. I'm just saying maybe he's not the voice that gets the most out of his roster.